Okay, a bit of an update to where I am now. I've got all the front finally boxed off. It's all plated up, top, bottom. So it's got all plates on everything. The holes drilled. So I bought some bolts the other day though, but I bought the wrong ones, so then it's not the right diameter. These are actually 14s, whereas I thought they were 16s, but they're not. So, but I've got my handbrake set up there. This is the old brake pedal out of the old GQ. It's just just the standard trailer cylinder. I've set it all up in here, so just got to put a small block in here so that when the inside of this moves back and forth, it'll push on here and give me brakes. I'm also going to put a cable coming from here back around that will go back and join onto a connection on my back of my four-wheel drive, so that on the dashboard I can have a manual lever hooked with cables to this, so I can manually from the cab pull this back by cable with a push-pull cable. And of course I can't leave it connected, so it's going to have something I can clip it into on the bumper and latch it in and put a pin in it or something like that, so I can disconnect that to take the trailer off. But that'll give me brakes on the fly. I've just got to put all the brake lines down the sides and that. I haven't had a chance to do the water tank yet, but I've actually got all the diff in. All my bushes arrived, I got all my arms done, got all the diff cleaned up, took off all the bits and pieces I didn't need, so I've ground off a whole heap of bits and pieces off the diff just to clean it up. So it's basically just a nice bare diff now. I've got these over the back here that I've cut off. Those are for the shock for the springs to go into. So this side's going to be nice and easy, looking straight on the top. That's not a problem. I can put it onto there and put a little bracket on the side here to help brace it. Although this side's going to be a bit more of a pain because of the diff. So to come across to line it all up, of course I've got to come into the side of the diff housing here. So we've either got to make the spring about 1.5 inches shorter on this side, which is the easy option, or I may just cut the corner off here to get it to sit lower, because there is a rubber bush that fits on top of this as well, and I can shave the corner of the rubber bush so the spring will actually sit up a little bit. But I won't know until I've got the springs for it, because the springs I'm going to use are the ones that are in my car now. So I've got a 3-inch lift kit to go into the into my Patrol, and the standard springs will come back to here. And I'll set it all up with standard springs so that once it's all loaded up with all the weight on it, if it is too heavy, I can put longer springs in here and the geometry will be right. But all the suspension arms have come up good. They're all bolted in nice and tight. So all the arms down there with new bushes and everything. Just got to tighten these up. It's only sitting in there in case I have to take it out to weld. The shock absorbers I do have are probably a lot too long, so I'm going to use the factory shocks out of my one as well, just to put in here. It means I can keep them a bit shorter, so I don't have to drop my brackets for this right down low, otherwise it'll stick out and catch on things. But as you can see, they're way too long, and by the time I put a bracket down here to hold them in, it's going to be so low it's going to smack everything, so I need much shorter shocks, which is a pity because these were nice adjustables. But oh well, it is what it is. I've got to use normal shocks, I suppose. And I can upgrade those shocks anyway. Once I know the size of them, I can put nice adjustable ones in there. I mean, I can buy anything the right length. And for the steering, I've got my steering bar across the front, so what I can get is about that much turn on the back, which actually surprisingly puts the wheel in line with the drawbar, so I can turn it actually I can actually swing it out so that whatever side wheel I pick will be in line with the center of my car. So the whole thing can crab sideways if I need to, or get round things. Going the other way, I do have the panhard rod here in this way, so when I turn it back this way, it does hit that just slightly, but it still does line this side up with the fitting too. So I just got to put a stopper on there so it doesn't quite touch. So I just bring it back a little bit, so that way nothing will rub. And the tyres I've got to go on here, these are 32s at the moment, so they're too big for what I'm going to be putting on here anyway. Oh, sorry, these are 33s at the moment. I've got 32s which aren't quite as wide and not quite as tall, so they might give me a little bit more clearance in here, so when it turns, I mean, that'll give me more clearance this side. So I've got clearance there, but the tyre at the front's basically touching over here, so I'll have to put stoppers and everything on them. That's easy enough. But the whole lot turns quite nicely. So, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to, for the steering, I'll run a rod from this side where the steering goes onto. I'll run a bar through here, and I'll put a bracket on here somewhere, and I'll put an actuator, electric actuator in between here. One with plenty of strength, so as it opens and closes and pushes and pulls, it'll just turn the wheels wherever I need them to go. And I'll have a micro switch so I know where center is, and I'll have a safety pin I can drop in for when I'm towing on the highway, so that nothing can move and it'll stay locked in the parallel position. For the drive on the diff, because it's offset, it's actually quite good. Means I don't have to worry about the diff in here and then trying to put a motor over here, because the diff is all here. I can put the motor right beside it here and just gear drive it through there with a chain guard on it. Only thing is I may have to just notch a chunk out of here, about quarter of the pipe width, just so the nose, because this here does come up very, very close, as you can see. So if the suspension travels right up, I mean, I could probably set up the bump stop so it can't come high enough to hit it, but I've still got to put a larger gear on here. I may have to put a tube on with the gears sitting back here, so it's all behind, which means it's never going to hit any of this. But this nose part may just clip this. I may just have to just notch a piece out of here just to give it some clearance, which isn't too bad. It's all gusseted anyway, so it's pretty strong. Yeah, got brake lines to run and set up all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's coming along quite nicely. I've managed to get it all cleaned up and painted. The whole lot's all, I had it flipped upside down, everything underneath's all cleaned and painted and finished and whatnot. I've still got the last body mount to put up here and over here, just to mount the last of the body to line up with this one under the front here. So I've got to, instead of the mounts being out here, they'll just be in about here somewhere, so it's not too bad. But there'll be plenty of support for it, because there's no weight on the front of it now. There's no motor, gearbox, and that sort of stuff, so it's all quite light. And I've still got to put another bar in across the drawbar at the front here, and here. But it's just taken me so many hours to get the diff cleaned up and everything else cleaned up and everything underneath done it. I mean, I'm working on my own, so to flip this thing upside down and lift it up and down has been quite the mission. But it's sitting at the height where it should be right now. It's all sitting somewhat level and at the height it's supposed to be. And yeah, so it's coming along, and I'll do another update shortly. Otherwise, that's where I'm at the moment. The next steps will be the water tank and that bar, and then start looking at steering and drive and all that sort of stuff, and shock absorber mounts, and yeah, getting all those sorts of things done. And once they're all done with the springs and everything in, I'll be fine. But I've still got to take the springs out of my four-wheel drive, so I've got to put my lift kit in before I can set the rest of the springs and shocks up, because I don't know how high it's going to sit with the springs in that the shock absorber mounts go onto. So, but yeah, that's where I'm at now at the moment. Beautiful sunny day here in Queensland. So trying to get under the shade here to work. But yeah. Anyway, I'll update everyone soon, and yeah, any suggestions or comments, feel free to say so. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys and girls.